following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Don't adjust your screen. There is nothing wrong. You're about to enter a world where the very concept of time is rendered obsolete by the sheer power of entertainment. You're about to enter the Boggis Hour. The host of the Boggis Hour, Greg Boggis!
Hey everybody, this episode of the Boggis Hour, we go on a road trip to Wilmington, Mass. At the Shriners Auditorium to the Northeast Comicon. And my in-studio guest, I talked to the producer of the Northeast Comicon, the king of pop culture, Gary. So, welcome again to the Boggis Hour, and with my good friend, Mr. Gary Sohmers.
Aloha, Greg.
The king of pop culture.
Aloha, kids. Welcome to the dance.
Welcome to the show, folks. So I want to ask you about Comic-Con. Why don't you tell the viewers, the unanointed, the uninterested, the unknown, what is a Comic-Con and how did you get involved in it?
Well, Comic-Con is a generic term for a comic book convention. And they evolved over the course of the last 30, 40 years. Started out as just a bunch of guys who sold comics, getting together in a hotel, ballroom and selling stuff. And it evolved because of the San Diego event into a multimedia pop culture extravaganza something.
Did that just happen?
It happens every year in July.
Okay.
And that's 150,000 people.
Wow.
The New York Comic-Con also has 150,000, and so does Salt Lake. Wow. Some of the bigger ones like the Boston Comic-Con has 40,000, Miami 50,000. These are like very large, congested and fun events, if that's what your idea of fun is. I produced the Northeast Comicon, which is at the Shriners Auditorium in Wilmington, Massachusetts.
Just down the road.
Right off of Route 93. And it's December 5th and 6th this year. Our winter edition happens the first weekend of December every year. And we kind of put together a Comic-Con and a collectibles extravaganza. It's what we call the holiday shopping show for nerds and the people who love them. So, if you're looking for that weird gift to get for your weird nephew, where else to go but to a weird event where there's a lot of weird people having a lot of weird fun. So it's free parking, and not boring. You got both. Where do you find both? Free parking and not boring. You don't.
That's not a common thing.
And so what we've put together is a lot of great vendors that sell comic books and toys and collectibles, along with nerd-centric gifts and crafts, and we have artists that are doing drawings right there. We have famous artists that come from comic books and Marvel and from Disney and people like that. I can get into all of them. But we also have a variety of entertainment that happens, live music, video games, costume contests.
Stand-up comics?
Stand-up comedy. Well, it's a comic show. Why not have comics?
Why not?
And we have Ken Reid, the wonderful Ken Reid, who is brilliant. We have young amateur comics that do stuff for the nerds. I mean, there's comedy for nerds. We have Geek Beat Radio Stage, which has chiptune artists that take computers and turn them into, video games into music. But the main goal and focus of the Northeast Comicon is, again, to show the next generation where the careers are in the 21st century in the creative arts. So we have workshops and panels on everything from costume making, mask making for the stage and for theater with Eric
Which a lot of people don't realize has become Halloween is a huge thing, which is coming up. I just had a guest on that talked about his haunted crop, and it's putting on costumes, putting on makeup, buying masks. It's that whole costume.
It's a business. It's a job. It's a $1 billion business. If some kid could actually have a passion for making costumes or masks and could learn where the jobs are and how to do it and be a craftsperson and be paid to be a craftsperson doing something they love, wouldn't the kids want to do that?
Sure.
So at our event at Northeast Comicon, we have artists teaching kids what the careers are in art: inking, lettering, producing, publishing, mask making, puppetry. We have Noel McNeil from Bear in the Big Blue House and other puppeteers from the Muppets that come and show you there's careers in puppetry. So there's video game development. You know how much money is spent in making a video game?
Oh, well, I just actually looked it up, and it was something like 50 billion in just
It's
the United
enormous.
States alone in 2010.
And they're hiring people who are 18 to 24 years old, and they sit there and they do this all day. Could you imagine getting paid to test video games?
By the way, now here's a little Nashua trivia. Do you know that the man who's considered the father of the video game was actually working in Nashua when videos were discovered? Have you heard of Ralph Baer?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
He's a
so
Nashua.
that was at Sanders in Nashua. So I always tell people that the
birthplace.
technical birthplace of the modern day commercial video game is right here in Nashua. It was the Magnavox Odyssey. It was the first commercially
remember the
available
toy.
video game. I
Pong.
think the control box was about
Yeah.
this. It's so funny to look at the old thing where they had these gels that you'd hang over the screen.
That was a Vectrex, yeah.
Yeah.
There was so many great video games, and that's another thing people sell at the collectibles thing. As we talk about the nostalgia curve, people don't want the toys they played with in the 1960s. They want the video games they played with in the 1970s. So you find like early Apple computers and early Commodore video games and Nintendo systems. Those are becoming very valuable, and there'll be people selling video games at the show. There'll be people who have been successful building video games, teaching workshops. There'll be an entire video game arena with free play on vintage systems, and then there'll be video game tournaments with prizes.
Wow.
So the whole gamut from just the casual entertained person to the person who sees the potential of being a career in that. In fact, ITT is going to have a booth there to show all the different courses they have in gaming and other technology careers. So that's a whole nother aspect of it, of the career thing. And we also have executive producers from animation. We have a voice actors workshop that goes on with 3 of the great voice actors of Sonic the Hedgehog: Mike Pollock, Bill Freiberger, and Cindy Robinson. Between the 3 of them, they have done over 1,000 different video games.
Wow.
They'll be there doing voice actors workshops. Could you imagine getting paid to do funny voices?
Oh, I would love it.
Wouldn't that be a great job? If they were told you in high school, you know, you have a voice for video games, you'd go, tell me where I sign up. I mean, right, where's that? But also in voice actors, we have great actors and actresses that are appearing. You know, it took me a year, but I finally talked her into doing a show, and she's doing her first fan convention ever. Annie Potts. Annie Potts is the voice actress that does Little Bo Peep in all the Toy Story everything. And the next Toy Story movie is a story of Woody and Bo Peep and their romance. So we're hoping we get some scoops when she's here. But she was also Janine in Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters, what do you want? You know, that was like, you know, so she's a great actress. She's in Designing Women. She has been in hundreds of films and TV shows. She's coming to meet the fans. So at a Comic-Con, you can get a photograph with the celebrity. You can get an autograph from the celebrity. In fact, with Annie, we have the Ghostbusters Ecto-1, so you can get a picture of you with Annie at the Ecto-1.
Wow.
And to top that, it gets better. I have 2 members of the Lost in Space cast on the 50th anniversary with the robot and a full-size Lost in Space chariot.
Wow.
So you can get a picture of you with them in the chariot with the robot who will talk to you. But the peak, the crowning thing I think that I got for this year's show is the movie A Christmas Story is shown over and over. Everybody knows it. You're going to put somebody's eye out with a Red Ryder BB gun. It's collectibles, it's Christmas Story, and I have 4 of the cast members of that movie. Scott Schwartz, who was Flick, Ian Petrella, Randy, Yano Anaya, who was Grover Dill, and of course the bully of all bullies, Zach Ward, who was Scut Farkas. They'll be there, and we're building a set from Christmas Story. The set with Santa Claus, ho, ho, ho. We're building that set so you can go down the slide and have your picture taken with Santa Sal Lizard, who's from Nashua, and the cast of A Christmas Story. So there's just so much to do. It's so much entertainment, so much fun. But to think about if a child was thinking of a career in acting, why not talk to 4 kids who were child stars and what happened and how you make it in the business? These opportunities are available at Northeast Comicon, December 5 and 6 at the Shriners Auditorium in Wilmington, Mass. If you go to the website, necomiccon.net, northeastcomiccon.net, all the details, including the other guests we have, including 2 of the Power Rangers. I mean, there's just so much to do. I can't even tell you everything because there's just way too much going on. But I guarantee, not boring.
No, it was definitely not boring.
You were there.
I did. I went to the one in June, and it was
with Adam West.
I wish I had more. I wish I had actually gone earlier and had more time, and maybe spent the whole weekend because, I only put the surface of it. So that sounds great. And since I've got you here, my ulterior motive really was to just have you on and have you appraise my stuff. And I'll.
Well, I can do I do psychic appraisals. Did you know that?
I did not.
You brought the Kreskin, but what you don't realize is that I do psychic appraisals on the radio. I actually do appraisals on my own radio show on WCAP, where people call in and I tell them what their stuff is worth without even seeing it. Ooh. And I do it. I've been doing it for many, many years. I do it also on WBZ. I was anointed King of Pop Culture by David Brudnoy.
Oh, okay, sure.
Long-time talk show host on
great,
WBZ.
really incredibly good talk show host on BZ.
Back in the early 80s, he invited me on to his show to talk about collectibles. And it's a call-in show, so people started calling in. And he was just amazed because I could tell them what their stuff. They'd get halfway through the description, and I'd finish it for them and tell them what it was. And the reality is most people have the same stuff.
Right.
It exists. And I do have psychic powers, but only for board games. So the amazing
have you seen that before?
Oh, I've seen it hundreds of times. I even have a copy.
Ah, there we go.
It's a fun little game. With all the mysticism now in the world, Ouija board games are going for huge money. If you find early Ouija board games, especially the Ouija name when it was just called Yes and No, and you could find some of these vintage game boards and some of these wooden planchettes and things like that, they can go for 40, 50, 60, even hundreds of dollars for the early ones. The Kreskin falls into that same category. It's a fun game and is worth probably between $20 and $30.
Nice. So push comes to shove, I need some bail money.
You ain't going to get it out of that. But if you want to know the future, it'll tell you don't go to jail.
It'll tell me the future.
It'll say don't go to jail.
The amazing Kreskin. So my folks always followed politics, so they actually had this. It's the Dallas Morning News, the day that President Kennedy, day after, obviously, that Kennedy was assassinated, November 23rd, 1963.
Yep.
I imagine there was a ton of those.
It's interesting how many people save the stuff of people's deaths
and
don't save the life stuff. So you see a lot of assassination newspapers. Now, it's interesting. There's very few of these that have any value. This is one of the ones that has some value because it's Dallas. Now, this is probably like the 6th edition that came out on that day. The first edition, of course, is the rarest, where he was not dead yet. And the second one was announcing his death. And the third one, so this is like the 4th or the 6th, I can't remember. But it is Dallas. Unfortunately, someone ripped it, probably mishandling it. I would say this newspaper's worth around $15 to $25. It's interesting, though, that one of the most valuable newspapers currently unavailable and hard to find is the inauguration of Barack Obama.
No kidding.
Because what happened was they printed so few newspapers by then that the first Black American president newspaper, they printed maybe 1/10 of the amount of these that they printed.
Sure.
So the day that came out, it as it sold off the counter, they were worth $10 that day if you could find one. $20 3 or 4 days later, and now a Washington D.C. or Chicago inauguration, a Obama elected president newspaper could sell for $40 or $50.
Wow.
And that's not to say it's going to go up, but I think it will because there's so few of them. Wow. Although newspapers do get moldy.
True. And then I brought some old political buttons. I think there's a few new ones in there, but like you said, pretty much from the 60s, 70s.
68 to 72.
The high hippie time.
Protest buttons and political buttons. So as I initially started in the campaign button business. So seeing these campaign buttons
brings you back.
McGovern, yeah, I was there. I collected McGovern buttons firsthand. And all these protest buttons of the Vietnam War and other things, very big demand right now. They started reproducing them. There was so much demand. Oh, wow. So these event buttons that have an actual date and a place. This one says November 13th and 14th, work for peace. Those are much more valuable than generic ones with birds and stop the war. So a button like this one would be $15 to $20, where a generic one would be $5 to $15. The same with these Come Work Together April 13th. That's a $25 to $35 button, wow. Where some of these others, which is just about this is the after Martin Luther King's death. No, this one is prior to his death. This one's probably $30, $35, where post-death is $5 to $15. And it sells both to African-American collectors and political collectors. And then, of course, you have the McGovern-Eagleton and the McGovern-Shriver buttons. This big McGovern-Eagleton button is probably $25 to $30, and the McGovern-Shriver one is probably $15. So, yeah, you do have a little bag full of gold there.
Well, that was actually the final scream of the show. So, once again, Gary Sohmers, the king of pop culture.
Come to the Northeast Comicon and Collectibles Extravaganza, December 5 and 6 at the Shriners. Go to the website, necomiccon.net. Thanks for having me, Greg.
Pleasure having you on again.
Let's dance again.
Good night, everybody.
Aloha.
How you doing? I'm Alex Simmons. I'm a professional writer, freelance writer. I've been writing children's plays, children's books, comic books, video programs and projects, documentaries for a lot of years, as you can see from the beard here. And so we're here at Eternal Con. I'm also the founder of the Kids ComicCon, which is 9 years old. It's an all-age appropriate comic book convention that we do in New York City every year. I started it because comics are something I read and enjoyed as a kid, and I knew that a lot of children came to reading through comics. You know, they love the entertainment, but they're also reading. And I noticed that the industry was moving away from kid or family-friendly material and was doing a lot of violent stuff and so forth. So we wanted to do a convention where parents, uncles, aunts, whatever, could bring children, whether they're 6 or 16, didn't matter, and whatever material was out there was appropriate. It wouldn't be, oversexed or so forth. And then kids could also meet artists and talk to them about how they became writers and illustrators, find out about the business, find about the different opportunities out there as well. So we've been, as I said, that's 9 years old in New York City, and we've traveled with it. We've traveled from as far north as Buffalo, New York, to as far south as Miami. And one year we were actually invited over to Africa, to Senegal, the city of Dakar, and we did an exhibit there. We did workshops with the kids, and they had a blast. And the last thing I'll say about that is last year I started the Kids ComicCon Comics Club International, where we get kids online working from different locations on the globe. We had Midwest, we had Belfast, Ireland, we had Africa. Kids talking about comics, creating their own comics, and I'm leading the workshops. So the whole idea is to write and to show comics not only as an entertainment medium, but a way of bringing children and young people into the creative end, the business end, and being aware that there are many opportunities out there, and also their imagination is a powerful, powerful tool, and if they just let it go and just envision possibilities, there are just so many opportunities for them out there. So that's what I'm about.
I'm Keith Gleason. How's it going? I'm here with my comic book this weekend. Let me show you guys some of my comics. This is a one I do called Swamp Tales. It's a comic that I write and draw. It's basically about a frog, a beaver, and a snake and their crazy adventures in the swamp. And it's basically a family-friendly book for kids. It's like the old comic strips that we used to read in the newspapers, you know, on Sunday mornings and things like that. Very, very safe, very family-friendly. The other book I do is called Hero Envy. This was a mini-series. I would pitch it as if Big Bang Theory was actually funny. So this is like basically about four geeks, and they have to go on this adventure to stop an intergalactic bully from destroying everything fun and geeky in the universe. And it's about these four guys, all from different fan genres. Like we got a comic book guy, a horror guy, a sci-fi guy, and a cartoon guy, and how they all come together and try to save the universe, even though all they want to do is hang out at a comic convention or in their basement watching TV. Yeah, and then we used to do a web show of Hero Envy, so we sell those DVDs as well. Yeah, so other things we're working on, we got a superhero book coming out down the road called Kid Switch. It's about a teen superhero who finds like this glove that can breach alternate dimensions and do all this crazy stuff. And we're also working on a book called Reckless Chronicles, which is an anthology book, which is going to feature like 3 or 4, 6 to 8 page stories of different types. We're going to have another Hero Envy story in there. I'm working on one called Mighty Mascots, which is if all cereal mascots came to life and became a superhero team. And I'm also working with some of the public domain characters. Like we're going to be doing like a story about the H.G. Wells time traveler, and him teaming up with some other characters like Sherlock Holmes and things like that. So yeah, so we got a lot of stuff on the horizon too. So you know, you can check all our stuff out or keep up to date with us on heroenvy.com or recklesssidekick.com. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
It automatically cuts off after 30 minutes.
Hi, my name is Emmanuelle McGowan. I live in southern New Hampshire. I do comic art, mostly geek art, but I do a lot of portraits and nudes and a little bit of colorful, abstract landscapes sometimes. Still on the geeky side. I have a lot of geek things in my house that give me a lot of inspiration. I do everything very colorful. I love colors, and I try to transcribe that in my paintings.
Thanks for coming to the Northeast Comicon Collectibles Extravaganza. This is your hardcore under God. I have season 2 DVDs. 2 days doing sketches for everybody, and everybody's having fun. There's also activity.
My name is Ken Reid. I'm a comedian by name and a hoarder by nature. I am at the Northeast Comicon doing some panels. I did my podcast TV Guidance Council yesterday live with Julie McCullough and Jeff Klein. I did some stand-up today, and I'm also making my wife happy by selling some stuff from our basement. So I just kind of grabbed the top layer of stuff and brought them 2 days in a row, which has been interesting. I've never sold things at a convention before, so it's been more like a museum. I should charge people $1 to walk through. There's been a lot of people taking photos of my stuff, which I guess is flattering, but also people do that at car accidents, so maybe it isn't. But yeah, it's been interesting. I don't know if I do it all the time, but it's been pretty interesting. This is a Dawn of the Dead board game from 1979. I don't know why they thought an independent, unrated horror movie would make a good board game, but that's why it's still sealed. I don't have the heart to open it, so I figured I'd sell it to somebody. However, the Nightmare on Elm Street board game, which my favorite thing is it's listed as ages 8 and up, which seems inappropriate for a game about a burn victim, undead child molester, I actually own 2 copies of, and so I have an open one and a sealed one, so I figured I'd sell the sealed one. And I thought, I'm like, oh, everybody's seen this game. I have 2, but everyone's like, I've never even heard of this, which made me feel bad about myself. This is an Elf Snuggums, which is a short-lived line of sleeping bags that were stuffed animals that you unfurled and then slept on, which is almost like skinning and sleeping on Alf. And it's really weird because it's like an Alf skin rug, and his head is your pillow. It's super creepy. I never had the heart to use it.
Child Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, it is weird. And it's bigger than the kid holding it, so I feel like you could probably hide a body in there that's roughly child size. I'm not recommending that anyone does that, but I figured I'd get that out of my house. And then we have uncut sheets.
Ah, yes.
Of these are WWF trading card stickers. This is a full uncut sheet of the series, so on the back, the posters that you would have to glue together yourself are fully intact. They're pretty cool from the factory. I figured someone would frame them because I would not spend the money to do that, but someone might. I don't know.
Reid here, aka Blam Girl, and I'm here at the ComicCon, Northeast Comicon, and I do these mosaics. This is my stuff. I'm sure that we'll show you for the 3 people that are watching. I don't know, is your mom going to see this? Who's going to see this? Oh, I've been doing this stuff for about 6 years. I'm a graphic designer in my real life,
And how did you get into doing these?
Well, I don't know. There's like a similar thing. Like these are very graphic, you know, in nature, and
So it's basically graphic without the computer, right? You're creating
exactly.
your own pixels.
Yeah, this is more hands-on, you know, and get my hands dirty and you know, look around for junk and I can put in them. It's a lot of fun. So, which one is my favorite?
Yeah.
Oh my God! You know what? I really like Wonder Woman, which isn't here today.
Okay.
Yeah, she's not in the house.
Take a picture of
but
it.
I've done Wonder Woman before. But I like them all. You know, what can I say? I like all superheroes. I don't know. I sort of fancy myself as being one. Yeah, maybe I'll do a self-portrait sometime. I'm sure that'll sell well. But I do some hubcaps. Somebody asked me to actually, you know, do their car, like their Ford Fiesta. Could you do my hubcaps? And I was like, well, I don't think that would stay on in the Massachusetts weather. But I think it was a good idea. You know, that could be my side job. You know, I'm always adding on to what I do. But it's a lot of fun. I love coming to these things, hanging out with people, talking to them like I am you guys, the 3 people watching. So, but yeah, I'm like,
I'm from Billerica. I'm a stand-up comedian, and I'm here at the Northeast Comicon in Wilmington at the Wilmington Shriners. And I'm here for more than one reason. I performed yesterday in the other room along with other comedians. And also I collect comic books. I have various friends here. I know Gary Sohmers, and it's just a great place to get out and have fun and see all sorts of different type of events and mingle with some of the regular folks. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Writing precisely twice until I'm fighting laryngitis. I'll self-actualize until I can self-actualize. Then I'll push this hamster wheel till it breaks off the axle and flies. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on The Boggis Hour, email us here at theboggushour@gmail.com.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.